Rachid et Shubhra de Alliance Française, de Campus France, notre professeur et directeur Gopanayak, tous les participants, the students et tous les professeurs. Merci de venir ici. And today we have a second webinar of the fall semester 2020, Opportunities in France. And I welcome Monsieur Guillaume, the Academic Director of Alliance Française de Delhi, and Rachid and Shubhra from Campus France. And of course, our director, Professor Gopanayak of Global Languages Center, with whose initiative the second webinar has been organized, which is titled Opportunities in France, and I thank her a lot for this. I would like to begin, I would like to introduce Mr. Guillaume. After having studied sociology and economics in his hometown, Lyon, he moved to Perpignan to pass his French as a foreign language master. He started teaching French abroad in Galicia and Ireland. Then, encouraged by these successful adventures in Europe, he traveled the world over 4 continents and taught French in USA, Namibia, and China. In Antigua, Guatemala, he undertook the role of director of an Alliance Française. Back to France, he completed his management training in MBA in Lyon. He was then hired by the National Center for Distance Education to coordinate a large teaching team that animated platforms for distance learning. But soon after, it was India calling for his weakness to discover new horizons and a new language, Hindi. Bienvenue, Monsieur Guillaume, et merci de venir. Après, on a Rachid Dhawan et Shubhra Sharma de Campus France. Et ils sont les responsables and their managers and co-managers taking care of the whole organization. Campus France is the French national agency in charge of promoting French higher education abroad and managing grants from French and foreign governments and welcoming international students. The Campus France team has a network of 255 locations and annexes in 124 countries with almost 500 counselors around the world. The main mission of Campus France offices is the promotion of French higher education to foreign students and institutes where they study. They answer questions about French programs, assist foreign students in their administrative formalities, and prepare them for their arrival in France. I would like to now hand over to our director, Professor Dr. Gopanayak, to say a few words and to continue with the session. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Good evening, all of you, to our esteemed guests and the panel members who are here, and to my beloved students. Dear students, is it for your initiative that we have been able to organize this webinar on your demand, and hope you will benefit from this. Getting back to the director of Alliance, excuse my apologies of not pronouncing French properly. And that is why, being a language teacher, I hesitate from pronouncing it wrongly rather than pronouncing it. When I was hearing at your credentials, your qualifications, I was just reflecting and kind of happily surprised that we share a common background in terms of sociology, in terms of going abroad for expanding of horizons. I think language teachers have everywhere all over the world have kind of the same mentality of having a very should I say love for culture and society and understanding people, and that is perhaps why language is so essential in this world today, because it binds people irrespective of what we speak and how we pronounce it. So thank you, and my heartfelt gratitude that you could come to our platform and address our students, and I hope they will benefit a lot. And Rachid, I'm given to understand that it is not your first time in JGU, and I believe you had come here before. And it's nice to see you again, but I am meeting you for the first time. And I really look forward to what you have to share with our students. And Shubhra, of course, I had a brief meeting with you and I was impressed with your enthusiasm to share things about France to our students. I will not take much time by my nonsensical rather information. Students are waiting eagerly to listen to you. So I'll give the floor to the academic director first. Thank you.
Merci Gopanayak for this introduction, and merci Navriti as well for for the same. So I'm very happy to be here tonight, and thanks to technology and webinar, now we can just gather much more easier than before. So it's a good opportunity to discuss, to debate, and to present some opportunities, as the name of the webinar is opportunities in France. So I will present. I will share my screen because I prepared a small presentation. We'll do it right now, like that. And sorry, I just need to go. Just 1 second. I just need to go on the first slide. Okay, and then to share it. So I think you can see the first slide: opportunities in France. France. I mean, when we say French and France, we can some kind of a misunderstanding, because France and French are two different things, because we speak French in France, but we speak French in many other countries all over the world. So when we say opportunities in France, it could be opportunities in French-speaking countries. To be more specific, because when you speak French, you don't have only the opportunity to go to France and to study in France, but you can study elsewhere as well, or you can work in a French speaking country. So this is the first idea when which came to my mind when I see this. But as a Frenchman, I will talk more about France because it's my home country, and I work in Alliance Française of Delhi as a deputy director, academic director. So I will talk about France, but I mean, it's just for you to understand that it's a wide language, and it's very important to know that when you learn French. So the question of tonight, I mean, opportunities. First, I wanted to take it like as a global question. Why learning a foreign language? Because it could be French, it could be Spanish, German. I mean, any other Chinese, any foreign language. So it's very important because it open yourself to the new world. Because when you speak a new language, you start to understand how others think, and this is very, very essential. Because for example, I can take just my own example. When I decided to go to India with my wife, we just it was for me very important to start learning the language of India. I mean, where I will live. So in Delhi, it's Hindi. So why it's so important? Because when you learn the local language, then you will understand better how people think, how people act, and what is the reason behind all that. So it's so essential to in order to be more integrated to the place where you live, because it will open your mind to other way of thinking. Because there is a kind of a connection between the way of thinking and the way of talking. So I will give you a small example. In Hindi, for example, you will say mujhe der ho gayi. So it means like the late has come to me. So when you hear this sentence, you will understand that because of some circumstances, the person has arrived late, which means like you have a lot of background behind this. Because in Indian culture, what I've understood is that circumstances are very important, which is not so true in France. In France, you will say like, I arrived late. It's because I decided to have a coffee in a terrace in Paris. So it's the reason why I arrived late. So all these kind of small details, learning and understanding the language, it will help you a lot to understand this kind of a cultural misunderstanding. So reason why it's very important to learn the language. So basically, to understand a new culture, the language will be so important. And you know, to refer to this kind of a misunderstanding, we can always inspire ourselves from movies or from books. And I think movies can give us many examples. And you know, this kind of Lost in Translation movie, I don't know if you see this movie, but you know, it's a very famous American movie, and the American guy is in Japan, and he kind of is lost because of the translation, because the Japanese they just mispronounce some word. So for example, they will say, like, instead of have a good flight, they will say have a good fright. So then, you know, he was like very scared, and he was lost because of the translation and because of the misunderstanding between Japanese and Americans. So it's a nice movie. I just recommend you to watch. I don't know if it's on Netflix, on Amazon, I don't know, but you can look for it. So now, I mean, of course, it will give you job opportunities to learn a foreign language. So now, why French? You know, like among many languages all over the world, why to pick French? So I just left you a small website in the Delhi website, where there is a kind of a explanation why to pick French as a foreign language. But frankly speaking, you know, French is a very wide spoken language. So you speak French all over the world in the 5 continents. So this is a very big argument to learn French. We have a wide network of Alliances Françaises and Instituts Français all over the world to help you to learn French, or I mean, to improve your French if you started to learn French in your university. In that's your case. So if you want to improve, you can improve your French in every Alliance Française all over the world. And then, you know, French, it's a language of opportunities because it's a language of culture. It could be like, you know, literature, or it could be movies as well. We have a big cinema industry in France. It could be as well, I mean, many aspects of the French culture is very important in the world. It could be a luxury, like perfumes and everything, but as well as gastronomy. We all know that the gastronomy is very important in France, and we train many cooks. And French could be very useful as for you to find a job. For example, in Alliance Française, before the lockdown, because now it's a bit different, we used to receive big multinationals like Google, Amazon, or any big companies, which comes to us to recruit youngers in order to have well-trained people in their company, and not only to use French as a language, but just the fact that you have learned French as for example, B1 or B2 level, it means that you have this kind of a methodology, this kind of motivation to learn a foreign language, and this, you know, skill, this capability will be used for the multinational, and it will be considered as a great value. So the reason why they come to us to recruit some people in our centers, and of course for studies. But for studies, I will let Rachit and Shura, because they know more about that, and it's their field. So still, why learning French? So I will come back again to movies. So now there is a very famous series going on in Netflix. Sorry to to mention again the name of this platform. So Emily in Paris. So, you know, this kind of experience, this series is very, very interesting because it just reflects how could be your experience if you go to France or to Paris or to any other cities or country in the world, and you will experience this kind of excitement when you go somewhere you dream of, and you have some kind of a success, but you can have kind of a I mean victory and defeat, kind of a I don't well, anyway. So I think you got my point. So this theory, gives you the stereotypes that could be true if you will go to France and study or work. And what's very interesting is the difficulties that she's facing at the beginning will become further her strengths, because you learn. I mean, when we are facing difficulties, we learn from it. So I just have some kind of examples. We used to. I mean, we still send teachers to France for a short term or long term. And for some of them, it could be difficult. You just leave your hometown, you leave your family, you leave your food, your Indian food, and all of a sudden you need to change it, to adapt yourself to a new country. And at the beginning, sometimes it's very hard, and they just contact us and they say, I want to come back. I don't feel very, very well. I'm homesick and everything. And then after a few weeks, after a few months, they just like start to have a pleasure and to understand and to learn so much. And then in the future, they just like, thank you so much to have pushed me, to have convinced me to stay in France, because now I understand how much I learned from this experience. So it's just like as a this very famous curve. It's written in French, so then you can improve your French at the same time. So you have the lune de miel, so the honeymoon. So at the first time, like Emily is in Paris, like, woo, it's in Paris, so nice, so good, it's my dream and everything. And then you have like a cultural shock, because you just discover that the idea you had of France, but it's not the reality. And then little by little, you learn how to adapt yourself to this new reality. And then you become mature and you learn. So this is kind of a curve which many people can experience in their living abroad. So now I wanted to present Alliance Française Delhi and all the opportunities you can have living in this capital and having this center next to your university. So it's Alliance Française. It's a very old network. The Alliance Française Delhi has 64 years old, so it's an old organization and a very prestigious one. And as you know, we offer some French courses in Alliance Française. So I know that you have many of you have studied French for more than 100 hours until 200 hours. So you have already a good level in French. And if you want to improve your skills, especially if you want to go to France to study, you are welcome to come to Alliance Française and to take orientation tests in order to continue your studies in higher levels. So now all the classes are online. Of course, it's the situation for everyone. Reason why we reduce the number of students per batch in order to have a good quality teaching. So the next orientation test will happen in November and in December, and the next session will start in January 2021. And you have two kinds of courses, so it could be intensive, 8 hours a week, or extensive, 4 hours a week, depending on how much time you have. I wanted to talk about pedagogy at Alliance Française as well. Because in Alliance Française we focus a lot on oral and written skills. So for us, it's very important to be able to communicate in French. So because the language, I mean, most of the cases is you use the language in an interaction between two people by talking. So that's why to practice the oral, it's very important. And now that everything is online, we have a platform, a learning platform, which is called ApoLearn, in order to have self-corrected exercises on the platform for the students to learn by themselves at the same time, which is very important now. And if one day you want to become a French teacher, at university or at Alliance Française, we have a teacher training as well, with in partnership with a university in Le Mans. And Alliance Française has been training teachers for more than 2 decades, so we have a great experience on that. Now I wanted to talk about Delph as well. I think you are very interested in that. So currently the Delph since March has been cancelled because of the situation we all know. But we will open the next one in December only for few seats. So the priority will be given to the students who will go to France for studies, for work, for anything. So if you have a project and if you need to take this diploma, you can contact Alliance Française and we can find you a place to take this exam. So for those who don't know Delph, it's a diploma. It's a French diploma. And the French diploma is divided by 6 levels: A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So basically, if you have completed 120 hours, you are A1, and 240 hours is like A2, just for you to have an overall understanding on that. So this is for Delph. And there is another test. It's not a diploma. The difference between a diploma and a test is the diploma it's for life, and a test it's only for a short time. We can offer TCF. TCF it's used by candidates for immigration, most of it. Reason why there is a TCF Canada for people who want to go to Canada for immigration. So we can offer TCF as well for those who are interested. So this is for Delph and TCF, and don't hesitate if you have questions afterwards on these 2 very important certification for you, I know. Library, of course, library is very important as well. Because when you learn a language, you want to read books, you want to read comics, or you want to borrow movies. Unfortunately, the library is closed for public, but we can borrow a book from internet and then to pick up the book in the front gate. So this is possible. We have managed this procedure for our public to be able to borrow, even though despite the situation, the COVID situation. So the library in Alliance Française Delhi is the biggest francophone library in India. So you have so many documents and you have so many things to see. And we have Culture Tech, which is an online library kind of. And you can read the newspaper, you can read books, and you have many documents on this online library. And then just a few words about translation. If you need to translate your documents, so this could be interesting for you. If you go to study in France or you go to work in France, you need to translate your diploma, your birth certificate, or any documents, we have a translation cell in Alliance Française, and you can translate your documents. And we are certified by the embassy, so we have the special stamp that you need in order to, to go for registration, if anything you need with official papers. Sorry. And just a few words about cultural activities, because as I said at the beginning, language is linked with culture, and culture is linked with language. So both they just communicate with each other. And so Alliance Française is not only a language center, it's a cultural center. So we have music, we have exhibitions, we have cine, we have concerts, workshops, anything related to culture we organize in Alliance Française. Now, once again, in this situation, all the cultural activities happen online and nothing with public, because it's still forbidden. But just for you to know that, once the situation will get better, don't hesitate to be part of the newsletter and to participate to some events, the one who could interest you. Because like every week we have many events in our gallery or in our auditorium. And yes, that was my presentation. So if you have any questions, I don't know if it could be a written question or oral question. I don't know how we will organize that, but I'm here to reply to any questions you have on any subject I have talked about, or something else. If I forget something and you want to have an answer on something that interests you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Guillaume. En fait, on a deux questions en français.
Oh.
Two questions in French.
Allez-y, j'écoute.
Oui, ça dit, est-ce que vous me donnez de Richougurc, advocate Richougurc, est-ce que vous me donnez un peu des informations de séjour en France? Aussi, si je voudrais travailler dans l'ambassade de France, quel niveau j'ai besoin d'eux? Après, la deuxième question, c'est quel est le niveau on a besoin de pour réussir TCF? So one question regarding the TCF, and the other question is regarding some information about the stay in France, and if one would like to work in the Embassy of France, what level is needed? Merci.
Ok. Alors, je réponds en français ou je réponds en anglais?
Tous les deux.
Les deux, d'accord. Okay, I will reply in English both. Les séjours en France, so to stay in France, this question is to be precise, because if it's what is the purpose of that? To study French in France, to study in France, so it could be to study economy, to study philosophy, I don't know, or to work in France. So I need to have this information before replying. Second one, about the embassy. So to speak the language, to speak French in embassy is very important, of course, because everyone speaks French between each other. And so it's kind of a criteria. But it's not the only one, because in every department in the embassy, they are looking for special skills. So it could be Business France. Business France is the agency to encourage business between France and India. So in that case, you have to have a business background, to have some kind of experience in that. For Campus France, for example, you need to have experience in pedagogy, experience in this kind of field. If it is all regarding visas, so this is a chancellery, you need to have experience in administration. So what I want to say is French, it's of course you need to speak French, but it's not the only skill you need. And regarding the level, with a B1 or B2 level, you can start to talk to people and to understand. So it's enough, and then you can improve. And I don't think, you know, in the embassy, speaking French, you know, as a highest level like C1, C2, is not like all the time the most important criteria. So I think it's, you know, it's both like professional skills and language skills. And regarding the third question, the TCF. TCF is different than Delph. So Delph, you will choose the level you will take. So for example, okay, I will take A2. So I will go for the exam for A2. If I have more than 50%, I will pass it and I will have my diploma. Fine, the diploma is for life. TCF, it's a test. So either you have a good level or very low level, doesn't matter. You will go, you will take your test, and you will have the results of your level. So if you have a good level, you will have, I don't know, B2, C1. And if you have a lower level, you will have a A1, depending on every competence, because TCF will test every competence and then will give you a final score on all the competences.
Et, monsieur, ensuite, il y a une autre question en français. Quels sont les critères nécessaires pour étudier en français la langue française?
Ah, donc pour étudier en France la langue française.
Monsieur, en anglais, s'il vous plaît. Si
en anglais, d'accord.
Ouais,
okay.
ouais,
To study French in France, you don't need any level. You can start as a beginner. Before coming to India, I used to work in a university in Lyon, a Catholic university. And we welcome students from A1 level, so complete beginners, to C1 level. So it's welcome to everyone. But most of them, they have learned before, because I mean, it's better to have some kind of, you know, knowledge before going to France, because we have this kind of reputation in France, and it's true that people, they don't like to speak English. So if you go to France, you need to speak French, and it's a good way to learn faster, because you have forced to, you know, you have no choice. French people, they will not let you any other choice, you know, rather than speaking French.
Et ensuite, il y a une dernière question. Quel est le prochain examen de TCF? The next exam for TCF.
Alors, the next TCF exam, TCF Canada, will happen end of November.
D'accord.
And this TCF is it's tailor-made for immigration in Canada.
Je pense que c'est tout. Mais oui, il y a une autre question en anglais. Can non-Alliance Française de Delhi students borrow books and documents from the library, from Alliance Française de Delhi library?
If they are not students of Alliance Française?
Yes. Can they borrow books?
It's possible. Yeah, they need to register to the library. You need to. I don't remember I don't have the price or in mind. Sorry, but you just need to contact the library, and they will give you all the information. It's very easy. And then when you have the membership, you can borrow books in AFD.
Une autre question en français. Comment est-ce qu'on peut envoyer notre résumé à l'ambassade de France? How to send the resume in Embassy of France?
This, to be honest, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that maybe the website, they have kind of a recruitment tab. I don't know. I'm sorry. I cannot reply to this question. Sorry.
I think I can. I think first of all, let me congratulate my students that they're asking questions.
Yes.
I'm so impressed. Right. The next important thing is that for jobs and other things, I think it's better you go to the website, find out what the embassy is all about. This is about opportunity in France. Now, about the embassy. Now, they're two different things, my dear. So, but anyway, your enthusiasm is what we look forward to. So, if you can, direct your questions to what you want to do in France and how to study in France, that would be perhaps more appropriate. If not, if there are no more questions, we will ask Rachit and Shubhra to take over. And we can take the other questions after they finish. And I hope everyone in the panel is comfortable with this arrangement, or doesn't, do you want to finish it off and leave or something like that? Not, you're here, right?
So
there's one more question coming, so we'll take that one and then give it back to Rachit. So this is there any scholarship to study French in France?
To study French in France, there is no scholarship in my, if I'm not wrong. You have scholarship to study, for example, French as a foreign language. To become a French teacher, you have a scholarship. But to study French, like just French, I don't think there is any scholarship. Maybe Rachid can. Yeah, okay. So he say no. So so it's only to study in France. So if you go for master degree, for PhD, but to study French, I don't think there is anything.
Yeah, and Ruchi question, Ruchi, you had earlier also asked this question, when will the offline sessions resume at AFD? Perhaps none of us know, but I don't know whether they have really planned something. I do not know. So let's wait and see when it is. You will be definitely informed about it. Should be the right answer, right? Yeah. Ankur Kumar has a question in French.
Yes, je pense, monsieur, vous pouvez répondre sinon, Rachid. Je suis l'étudiante de l'Alliance française. Si j'ai besoin d'aller en France, peut-être l'Alliance française me guider dans ce cas-là. Donc, c'est peut-être Rachid, je pense.
Alors, oui, c'est plus une question pour Rachid.
Ouais.
So yes, if you would like to study in France, just reach out to Campus France. We'll be happy to help you with your entire visa application from scratch to getting the visa. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, we can help for tourist categories if you just want to visit. Not that I presume anyone would be visiting France just for pleasure anytime soon, but if it is the case, it's usually a direct application to the VFS France offices. They also are equipped to help you with the application process and help you understand what kind of documentation you need and those kind of things. But if it's anything about student mobility or studying in France or just understanding what opportunities you have, if you would like to pursue anything which is related to an academic profile in France, reach out to Campus France and we're happy to help you with those things.
And then we can, merci beaucoup, Monsieur Guillaume. Et peut-être on peut continuer avec Rachid et Shubhra. We can continue with Rachid and Shubhra. If you could please share some important information regarding Campus France and its functioning, because our students are really interested for going to France for doing higher studies.
We had a few questions also from our students who are interested for PhD courses. So
absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much. And we'll take it now to bring you into the world of Campus France and higher education in France. So I'm sure it'll be an interesting thing as well. I'm going to share a presentation with all of you, and my colleague Shubhra would be starting. So she'll take you to an introduction to what is Campus France and what it is to study in France and why do we consider France to be an education destination.
Rajat, one more ahead, please. Yeah, so more or less every student here is aware about Campus France and Alliance Française. So I'll just start with a brief introduction about what Campus France is and what we all do here. So Campus France is the government agency that operates under French Ministry of External Affairs. In India, we have approx 14 offices all across India, and we all help all the students who wish to pursue their higher education in France. Now, it could be at bachelor level, master's level, or PhD level, and we help you with everything from scratch. So starting from counseling to your study plan to your visa procedure and all these steps that you have to follow till the point you receive your visa, you have to go through Campus France. And now I'll explain you what are the steps which are involved. Now, talking about, everyone knows who the person is on screen, I'm guessing. It's Emmanuel Macron. During his last visit to India, he did sign a couple of agreements and MOUs with Indian government, and they were not just related to educational field, but they were related to various fields. Now, I'll be talking about that. Rajat, thanks. So, this field, well, he did sign all these agreements, mutual understanding agreements in the field of economics, political, cultural, science, and technology. And this mutual recognition is very beneficial for you students. Reason being, this defines that all the education that you receive here and the degrees you receive here, shows that if you wish to go to France and study, your degrees will be considered valid. And at the same time, if you attain a degree in France and if you decide to come back to India and work here on the basis of that degree will be considered valid. And you can easily look for jobs on basis of that. And you can easily look for higher education on basis of that particular degree. Let's say you've studied bachelor level here in India and you wish to pursue master's degree in France. So your bachelor's degree will be valid in France. And at the same time, if you, let's say, finish your master's degree in France and you wish to come back to India and look for a job on the basis of your master's degree, it'll be considered valid, and you can easily apply for jobs or even for PhD. Next one. Now, talking about the levels of education and how they are called. So here, what we call class 12th, the grade 12, that is called baccalaureate in France, and it's at the same level, they're at par. Bachelor's degree here in India is usually from 3 years to 4 years. So all the engineering students would be aware that their bachelor degree is for 4 years. However, licence in France is strictly for 3 years. Talking about master's degree, here in India, we have a master's degree from 1 to 2 years, depending upon which particular master's degree you've selected. It's the same in France. Master's degree is for 1 to 2 years. PhD in India is for 5 years, 3 to 5 years. However, in France, it's strictly for 3 years. So you somehow save up some time, and this time that you save up here, you can easily get into the work industry and, just you somehow get an early start into your work career. Moving ahead. Now, talking about the universities in France, there are various kind of universities, for different domains. We have top-ranked Grande École. We have, so all these Grande École, if I talk about, they are considered at par with IIMs, IITs. If I talk about these two particular domains, there are public universities, there are specialized schools, there are specific schools like management schools, there are engineering schools, there are schools related to for art and design. There are even schools for culinary arts. And one good thing about France is that, people, when you're taking admission in any of the programs in France, the school authorities do not really look into your past. I mean, they do, but not that much. So you can always decide to change your field at any point of time. If, let's say, after completion of your bachelor's degree in, let's say, engineering or maybe French literature, if you one day decide to get into baking, you want to get into culinary arts, you can easily choose a course. You just have to have strong motivations. You should be clear that why you really want to, pursue that particular program. And any university, any school in France will accept you as a student if you have clear motivations. So your motivations play a big role. You can always decide to choose any kind of course in France. Moving ahead. Now, talking about these benefits that you get as a student in France. So Now talking about the individuality and the identity. Once you arrive in France as a student, you're considered as, at par with any of the French native students. Once you're a student, you are a student in France. Then talking about your tuition fee, which you pay, there are a lot of subsidized tuition fee. When we talk about public universities, the tuition fee is very less, which if you compare with any of the institutions in India, it's really, really less in France. Also, when the students are in France, obviously they pay a rent, they stay there, taking a studio apartment. There is something called CAF, which you can always apply for. Any student can apply for CAF, and that means that you can receive up to 30% of your rent back in your bank account. There are other benefits as well, like you can apply for student housing, for which the rents are already high, the rate is already subsidized. Another benefit that you get as a student, the day you arrive in France, from that day onwards, you get working rights. However, these working rights are part-time because your main motive is to go to France as a student is to study your main program. So you can always work up to 19.5 hours each week, but as part-time, which means you can work either on a weekend or you can work in the evenings. The only condition is that your work timing should not clash with your study time. Because okay, one should not forget that you arrived in France as a student to study and to attain as much knowledge as you can. Also, when you are in France as a student, you get a lot of benefits, like you get discounts in buses, in public transports, in metros. You get discounts if you wish to visit museums and all of these touristic places. You get a lot of discounts. Even in cafeterias, you do get a lot of discounts. As students, you just have to carry your student ID card with you whenever you're stepping out of the house. Moving ahead, yeah. So talking about two main categories. So the institutions in France are basically divided into two main categories. That is called public universities and private institutions. Now, I'll show you the entire plan of how to apply to a university, which is a public university, and how you have to apply through Campus France. I'll briefly guide you about the private institution first. In case of private institution, you can apply to the institution directly. You can apply to as many institutions as you want. Let's say you want to apply to a management school, and you, let's say, like 5 to 10 schools. You can apply to all those 10 schools separately via their websites. And once you receive your acceptance letter and you finalize that, okay, I want to go for this particular program to this particular school, and you receive your acceptance letter, post that you have to contact the nearest Campus France office and the manager will guide you through. However, in case of public universities, I'll explain you now. Moving on. Yeah, these are these simple steps where you apply through Campus France for a public university. You create your file on the Campus France portal. You upload your CV and all your education documents starting from grade 12 till present day. You have to include all your work documents, your internships, and all the things academically that you have achieved. You have to select. Now, this one great benefit of applying to a public university in France is that when you apply to Campus France, you can apply to 7 different programs with just one application. Now, these 7 programs could be in one single university, or you can choose 7 different universities for these 7 programs. The choice is up to you. You can select 7 programs with one application. You pay one time CF fee, and you have your interview with the CF manager. Again, whichever is the nearest to your zone, you contact that Campus France officer, and they will explain you all these steps, and you have your interview with the person. Now, this is one benefit, that out of those 7 programs, you can ultimately decide, wherever you want to go, but that option is always open to you. Moving on. Scholarships in France. Well, we all understand that when a student decides to go out of India or out of their own country to study abroad, they do think about funds. So just to let you know, French government does offer a lot of scholarships. There are about more than 500 scholarships which are awarded each year for different categories and at different levels. So I'm talking about masters, PhD, and even specific scholarships for specific domains. Like for engineering, there'd be 1 or 2 scholarships. For social sciences, there will be another scholarship. For culinary arts, there would be different scholarships. So all of these scholarships are available for students. The basic eligibility criteria is that your age should be less than 30 years. That is one major criteria to apply for a scholarship and be eligible for it. Another one is you should have an acceptance letter from one of the institutions in France. So if you have these two things, then the steps ahead are pretty simple. Now, I've given you a brief about scholarships. I'll let Rachit to delve more into it, and he'll explain you in detail about the scholarships that are offered.
Thank you so much, Shubhra. That was just moving ahead with scholarships. So yes, the whole idea when we think about scholarships is that we want to extend financial aid whenever it's possible and wherever we can. And the whole idea that we drive towards the scholarships is that we want to help you not just in terms of with your tuition fee or what you pay to a university or an institution, but we know sustaining your living expenses is also a very strong category and a very strong concern for a lot of students who decide to go abroad, and providing a certain allowance definitely does help them. So we'll take you to a brief of what kind of different scholarships we have, but the most prominent one that we have, which is the first French government scholarship we want to tell you about, is the Charpak scholarship. Now, Charpak is interesting because it's offered for different kind of programs. So you could choose to have a Charpak for a master's program, you could choose to have a Charpak for an exchange program, you could choose to have a Charpak for a research internship that you might be doing in France. So depending on the duration of each of these categories, you can request and apply for one of the Charpak scholarships, and you can have a look at the benefits that cover it. Let's look at the Charpak Masters one first, which is quite prominent and actually one of the most preferred ones that we offer. The Charpak AME provides you a living allowance of 700 euros per month for one academic year. It also gives you waivers on visa fee. It gives you a medical insurance coverage. It also does give you a tuition fee waiver up to 5,000 euros. So whatever be your tuition fee, wherever, we can pay up to 5,000 euros for you as well. And we also give you an assistance to find accommodation in France through the cruise network. So we also give you a priority access to one of the cruise residences, which are there in almost every city in France, so that you're able to actually have a first-hand access to finding an accommodation in France. The Charpak also extends in terms if students don't get covered under the AME, we are happy to provide them travel benefits as well. So it does also have a category where you can get a to and fro air ticket between India and France, and also alongside the similar visa favor that we offer. When you look at the exchange scholarship, the exchange one within Charpak is offered twice in a year. We offer it once for the students who are going during autumn and during spring, and the benefits are very similar. You get the living allowance of 700 euros, you get the visa fee waiver, and you get the cruise, the access to the cruise residences across as well. And similarly, the Charpak Research Internship Scholarship is also very similar, except the stipend depends on where you are actually doing an internship. So whether your host institution or laboratory is in Paris or outside of Paris really makes a difference here. And the amount wavers between 650 euros to 800 euros, but you do receive the visa fee waiver as well at the same point of time. So Charpak's quite prominent, and like hundreds of Charpak scholarships are given out every year to lots of students who apply in different fields and different kinds of programs that they end up doing. Even this year, we have given out Charpak scholarships to a lot of students who were commencing on programs starting from September or October onwards, or had probably delayed arrival in France, but they managed to secure the Charpak scholarship, and it's a big aid in terms of living expenses and other things. Moving on, we have other kinds of French government and EU scholarships as well. So a lot of you would be already aware about the Erasmus Mundus scholarships, which are quite common and popular in Europe. So a lot of European countries collaborate to offer the Erasmus Mundus programs, which in turn also have the Erasmus Mundus scholarships with them as well. So they're mostly at a master's or a doctorate PhD level, or sometimes for short-term study programs as well. And Erasmus Mundus is interesting because the application procedure is usually directly handled by the European Union. So you can always look for which programs in France are collectively joined by different countries in Europe offer an Erasmus Mundus program with an Erasmus Mundus scholarship. The stipend amount and the tuition fee amount is quite high in Erasmus Mundus. So usually you're able to receive a strong waiver of your tuition fee, and also a strong benefit in terms of living expenses that you receive. So the category is very open, but usually it is for programs that are over different countries in Europe. Maybe a semester is in France, another semester in Germany, another semester in Estonia or Poland. So it really depends on that, but you can check the website, the web link that's given away. We have another category, which is the Eiffel Scholarship, which is very interesting. It's another French government scholarship that we offer at the master's and doctorate level. It does cover fields like engineering, political sciences, economics, management, and law studies. And IFL is very interesting, where once you receive an acceptance from an institution, you can convince them to nominate you for the IFL scholarship, and the institution forwards us your nomination to be selected for the IFL. So the institution has the liberty to propose some students that they select for a benefit extended by the French government. And for that matter, the IFL scholarship is very interesting. Raman Charpak would be very interesting for students who are interested to do a certain part of their PhD in France. So if they would like to probably do a term or a semester in France, possibly for 4 to 5 months, they can be funded through the Raman Charpak Fellowship as well, which is offered as a collaborative effort between CEFIPRA and the Embassy of France in India. And similarly, the stipend amount is very high, and you get a visa fee waiver, you get your benefits in terms of finding accommodation and other things as well. So Raman Charpak's purely for doctorate candidates, but it's definitely a very good choice if you're planning to do a certain part of your PhD outside of India. There are also financial aids that are provided by the Embassy of France, which are very specific to students' needs. I mentioned about the travel grant before as well, which could be offered at a master's or an exchange program or a short-term program level. You get an air ticket, you get social security, a visa, and campus transfer waiver at the same time. There are specific scholarships at the same point of time, which are offered by specific domains and schools across. So if there's students who are interested to probably study or pursue a short-term program in filmmaking or documentary making or something related to the world of cinema, and they're going to an institution like La Femis, which is quite a big institution in France, and we can also give you benefits in terms of providing a monthly stipend and air ticket and social security. Similarly, we have something for people who are already studying French in India and would like to do a teacher's training program, which we call as a stage pédagogique de courte durée. And the whole idea of the stage pédagogique is that it covers the entire period of the stage that they are spending in France for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We can also provide some kind of support financially in those terms as well. Similarly, there are co-finance scholarships, which more or less have similar benefits like the monthly stipend or the tuition fee. You can choose one of them here. And there are other benefits in terms of social security or accommodation. The idea behind co-financed is that we have some agreements signed up with certain institutions in France, like Sciences Po, like the IAC, which is IC Super MBDA program for aeronautical engineering. Then there are business schools like EDHEC and Rennes. For students who would like to study something in art or probably music, then there's the Krishna Kriti and the Nimrana Music Foundation one as well. So the co-finance scholarships have similar benefits as well, but there are also categories where you can apply if you're going to one of these schools across. And then finally, there is a Franco-Indian Education Trust under the Embassy of France, which also has 3 different kinds of scholarships, which are offered in tandem with the industry support that we have. So we have the Amba Dalmia Scholarship, which supports education of girls in the field of art, gastronomy, or sports at a master's level or a PhD level. There's similarly something called Webinar Oct, which is mostly for students from low-income families, and if they would like to pursue something in engineering and management. And finally, we have the Baman Zamantri one, which supports studies in culinary arts. And if you're planning to do a program at an institution like Le Cordon Bleu or the Ferrandi or École Ferrier, and you wish to master the art of French cooking or something like that, we have a scholarship dedicated to that kind of an interest area as well. And the whole idea, we understand that when you're looking at these kind of things, there are also questions about like, how would I work on finding an internship, or whether it's useful if I do an internship in France. But it would be interesting to know that there is also a national minimum wage for interns from every nationality across. And the contracts are quite assured in France. So if you have a signed contract, it's usually supported and regulated by the government very clearly. And you do receive a minimum monthly wage very clearly as well. And approximately it's about 436 euros per month that everyone receives. That's a minimum. It could be as much as about 1,500 to 2,000 euros as well. And it's also a good benefit, because if you're doing a research internship in France, you also have the possibility to sort of engage with the professor and work in the laboratory in the long run as well. So there's always possibility of employment as well. If you already have some skills in the French language, as Guillaume mentioned very clearly, that knowledge of French is interesting, definitely. But if you do get a chance to practice it in France at some point, once you've studied a bit already in India, it's definitely an interesting experience to find immersion in France. And the benefit that you gain here is that the French language proficiency will ultimately help you in finding jobs in the long run as well. And similarly, for a lot of people, when they do study in France, There are opportunities in India as well. As you know, France is the world's 5th largest economy. There are more than 1,000 French companies that employ more than 300,000 people in India. These are people from different nationalities. You might have come across some of these names that are mentioned here, like Renault, Capgemini, or Decathlon. And these are strong recruiters across the country. They have a big work pool of employees who work in India. And if you have a background of being associated with France, they do look at you as someone they can identify with, probably understands the French system a bit better. So you do become a more desired candidate in those fields. We do have networking platforms like the France Alumni Network that the Embassy of France operates, which is an absolutely free platform for anyone who has studied or been associated with France for an exchange program, master's, a PhD, a bachelor, like any of these categories. And the whole idea behind the network is that it allows you different platforms to actually network with other students, industry partners, French companies, even a lot of ways that that you can also sort of stay in touch with the French network, because it does help in the long run as well. If in case you do want to reconnect with France, there are also, it's very interesting to note here, there are visas that the French government provides which support you to even have a relationship with France in the long run. If in case you would like to open a startup in the long run, France does support you that way as well. If in case you would want to apply much later on for a program to go back to France and look for jobs, you've done a master's program already and you want some extra time to look for jobs, you can either choose to stay back in France after your master's and have the visa extended for a year. You can also choose to leave France, come back in any time in the next 4 years, and the country will still support you by giving you a visa which allows you to go and look for jobs. So we also have a job search visa, what this is. And something which Guillaume and we want to like really emphasize on this, that learning French is really a good skill to have these days. It's an added advantage these days, is a strong benefit in terms of language. And definitely knowing another language provides us a very strong medium to communicate and work in a different network altogether. It makes you a much more desirable candidate for a lot of companies. Like, as I mentioned, French companies in India are on the hunt always for looking for people who are bilingual in nature and can manage to do the same work in English and French. It's something very similar to us as at the Embassy of France as well. Most of the employees that are there are able to speak between both the languages. They're able to do the same work that they do on a day-to-day basis in both the languages, and that makes them a lot more useful, even if they're based in India or here. But their past association with France benefits them in the long run. But if you want to learn French, learn and start picking up courses, the Alliance Française is your best bet before you actually leave the country. And once you have a certain level which you have studied with the Alliance Française in India, when you arrive in France, you can continue from that particular level at the same time while you're studying your program. So if you're pursuing an academic track or an academic profile afterwards, you can still continue your language education, which is a skill on its own and will help you in the long run. There are also two other kinds of benefits which I just mentioned, like there's the post-study visa. For example, the APS, which I just mentioned about, which allows you an extension up to a year, even 2 years is possible for Indian citizens. And it gives you an extra time to keep looking for jobs, applying for jobs after you have done an academic program in France. If you've once been a student in France, if you've done like a master's or a PhD program, for the rest of your life, you can also apply for something called an alumni visa, which gives you direct 5-year circulation visas for France and the Schengen zone. And you can use those visas for, it's an entry-level visa for travel, work, or business. You could choose to use it at any point. But these are one of the two strong post-study benefits that are associated with studying in France. At this point, we also want to take the opportunity to tell you a bit more about our Choose France Tour, which is an upcoming virtual fair that we are organizing on the 6th and 7th of November. The idea of the Choose France Tour is to actually give you a platform where you can meet one-on-one with leading French institutions from different domains like engineering, management, specialized schools, public universities in France, language schools. And the whole idea behind doing the Choose France Tour is to sort of give you a platform where you can have a direct access to these representatives from these institutions. So this year is interesting, and we've gone virtual with the time. So the Choose France Tour for the first time is being organized online. There will be live sessions, there will be webinars, there will be quiz and games as a part of the session. It's from 4 to 9 p.m. on both 6th and 7th November. There is a web link mentioned over there as well. I'll leave it in the comments afterwards as well. If you'd like to register for the Choose France Tour, it's absolutely free for any student who would like to meet with any of the respective institutions that are visiting. So when you go on the link, you can actually have a look through which institutions have signed up for the Choose France Tour, and what events are lined up, and which webinars will be happening at what time slots. And if you want to be a part of any one of them, which could be interesting for you to listen to. We have webinars ranging from alumni benefits, finding a job in France, internship in France, how to build up a good CV and an SOP while you're applying to French schools, a lot about doing the visa procedures, as someone asked as well. We also have webinars about in terms of finding opportunities in fields like management, or if you're looking to do something in economic or engineering studies, like one of these. So the different varied webinars, what we have come across with, and they will be happening as a part of the Choose France Tour, as well as there's an opportunity to speak to the institutions directly virtually as well. So it could be an interesting fair, and if you want to make note, you can mark the dates on both of these dates, a free registration on the link, and you can find the schedule across. With this, we also want to tell you that there is also a Campus France application on both the Play Store and the App Store. If you want to download it, it's a good way to check catalogs and other things across, and it's a good way to find out programs with Campus France. If you find this is too complicated, you can always reach out very easily to us as well. So you can call the web link and find the nearest Campus France office to you. Of course, for everyone who's at Opportunity, you can reach out to us in Delhi, because we're very close by and we do regularly visit your institution as well. If you have any questions at any point, reach out to us. We're happy to help you understand your study plan, your plan for finding scholarships, also to understand how the applications work, what is the right time to apply, what should you sort of work upon, what kind of recommendations should you have. And eventually, once you have an acceptance, we also help you with the visa process and help you understand. A certain part of the visa process also happens with Campus France, which is quite an important one, in fact, which is the interview stage. So you also will be in touch with us at some point or the other, but it's good to maintain contact during the year so that we can keep you updated about rules and regulations regarding to France and how to have your application in one place. So with this, we come to an end to our presentation. Just before we take up questions, we also have a very short video from the ambassador of France in India, Mr. Emmanuel Macron. And the video was shot up like about a week ago. He had interviewed 2 students who are going to France. And it was just a bit about their journey and how they've managed to stay in touch. So it's a lot more updated because it speaks about the COVID-19 pandemic and how we have managed to stay in touch with things and at the same time. So post this 3-4 minutes video, we can take questions from all the students across. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Rajat. Yes.
All right, I'll just share my screen.
Today I met with 2 young Indian students, Miss Mohan and Mr. Yadav, who are going to France next month. And I wanted to understand their motivation. I wanted to understand how the process had been for them. And I was very pleased to learn that it's been a very smooth process. I'm very proud that France was the first country to reopen visa for Indian students as of 17th of August. And as you know, we want more students from India to come to study to France. And last year there were 10,000. And we do our utmost to make sure that COVID will not disrupt the flow of Indian students to France.
When you look at the world and sustainability, France has always been a front runner in sustainable practices within the household. They have no food waste, they have no clothes that go to waste, and that was something that really inspired me to choose France. I've received the Make Up Planet Great Again scholarship which has been created, which is given to me by the French government. This was perfect for me because it's a scholarship that is designed especially for people who want to study social sciences, anything to do with climate change. And it was really great to see that a government that is not my government inviting me to study in their country, because they think people who want to study climate change should be cherished, and we should be people who should be encouraged to study sustainability. And that was when I think Campus France really started to help.
The Campus France network during even the COVID-19 phase and the lockdown has been very much active throughout. Our entire 14 offices and the various managers across the country have been doing activities entirely online. What's to come for now is that presently the students are able to go to France, so the visas have opened indeed for students, and students and researchers alike are able to pursue their program this year and go to France to pursue their education. In simple words, just to close it down, if you want any kinds of guidance and have any questions about the Campus France network, about higher education in France, don't hesitate to reach out to the nearest Campus France manager to you and ask them questions about your student mobility plan, your study plans for the upcoming year, and just to know about when you can apply, when you can start with the application, so you can start right away.
Trip to France from India is very smooth and good, and in this tough situation like COVID situation, the flights are operating really well. The first impression is really great. When I arrived to the campus, the college, the Schema Business School, the person was there in front of the gate to meet me and to accompany me throughout the college, show me the college, the different places, the classes. So that was a really nice gesture to have. As when we see back in India, there are a lot of cases in India as well. So I was very much concerned about the COVID-19 cases, because I was sure that France will take good steps at a very good time. I'm very happy to be here finally, and looking forward to a new beginning of my life and a new chapter of my life.
I really wish that more and more of you will decide to study in France. I'm sure they will enjoy our country, they will enjoy our way of life, and eventually they don't have to learn French before they go. If they do, it's very well. I mean, 600,000 Indians are currently learning French, but if they don't, they shouldn't refrain from going to France. I'm very hopeful that once they are in France, they will want to learn to communicate and to enjoy our culture. So welcome to France, please come.
Yeah, so that was it. And if you want to redirect the questions now, Shubhra and I will be happy to take them.
Thank you so much, Rajit, for that wonderful presentation and the video at the end. There are some questions coming, but I think most of them have been answered. If you want to take them, you can. Ruchi has a question. She's an economics graduate and wishes to pursue Masters in Economics in France, needs some guidance. And there's another question from Ankur. Short-term courses in travel and tourism. They're all in the chat box. I hope you can see them, Rachit, if you can take them.
There is one question also, conseil de Campus France sera gratuit.
Yes, so I think I'll answer that first. So yes, indeed, the services of Campus France are absolutely free. It's a service which is run by the French government to help you sort of have an easier experience navigating studying in France and the opportunities that France offers. So there is no service fee, or anything. It's a free service. You just have to write an email to us and we'll be in touch with you and take you through the entire process. The common application fee that applies is when you file an application, which is very much later in the stage or anything. But if you just want counseling and understanding of the system, it's absolutely free with Campus France. So there's no fee for that. The two questions otherwise, are very similar nature, that if you want to do a master's in economics in France, or if you're looking to do something in the field of travel and tourism, a master's in tourism, there are absolutely a lot of opportunities and a lot of programs that are taught completely in English. So knowledge of French is not really a mandatory requirement, though as we suggested during the presentation, some skills in the language definitely help you. And when you do arrive, you can always gain more as well. But please get in touch with us. We'll be happy to take you through the different universities, schools, programs that are offered in these domains and how the applications work for them. And then if you want to apply for next year's intake, I think right now is a very good time to start early so that you can start writing to the schools and sort of have your application in place. But yeah, the best step for any of you who have similar questions, reach out to Campus France and we can help you with your study plan right away across. And it's a good time right now to start, even if you're intending to go later next year. But it's good to start early because it'll give you enough time to apply for scholarships. It'll give you also a lot of time to, if you want to pick up skills in French at the same point of time, and also sort of have an easier access to when you have to arrive in France eventually during the year.
Thank you for that. Any other questions anyone has?
I had a question I could ask. Rachit, I just wanted to know, like, if I'm not wrong, you mentioned that 5 years visa is like if you do complete masters. But what about the students who are doing a coach tutel in the sense, the 2 years maybe there, like an exchange 2 years of PhD there and 3 years here of coach tutel. So that's also like giving a good amount of time, 2 to 3 years. So do they have that chance, or is it only for a complete master?
Yes, of course. So even as a part of the PhD, if they're spending about 2 years or about a year and a half, they can always request for the same category of visa. The embassy lets you know whether they can give you a 5-year extension right away straight up or not. But usually in such cases, we have seen that they're very liberal, giving about 3 to 4 years. And it's for the rest of your life. So every year when you have the visa, you keep renewing it with the same kind of documentation. So it's really a question of request. We've had PhD cases, even if they've done about like a year, they've been able to ask for the alumni visa and they've been granted as well. So it's not very difficult. The duration, really is the decision of the embassy and the visa team. But they don't say no, even if you do a master's or a PhD or something. Even a lot of times, I mean, not that there's a lot of mobility in terms of bachelor programs, because the preference is to do it here usually. But even for bachelor students, we have had cases where they've received the alumni visa as well. So yeah, there's no limitation as such.
There is a question, I guess, which had come by email to me, but I think I have just asked this person to ask you directly. It's about
I did notice that there was a question about when offline classes or offline programs will start in France. This really is a very tricky question for us as well. Right now, a lot of schools have opened classes. Depending on the nature of the program, they're either preferring to do it in person, like offline entirely, which usually are programs which are more scientific in nature because it requires them to be present in the laboratory or be at the, sort of within the classroom environment. And then there's schools like management schools or business schools, which have gone in a hybrid mode where they alternate between attending classes in person and attending classes online. And there were a few schools which had got classes online for a few weeks, but then they switched to the hybrid mode or the offline mode right away. So for now, more or less classes are going on. Even France announced a second lockdown just yesterday as well, because they had a huge surge of cases due to the winter that has just arrived in Europe. But the university classes are going on. They have not suspended that, and students are going. It's only that they're doing a hybrid version where just a couple of days in the week they will be home, and the rest of the days they will be attending classes, and that way they can manage the strength and everything. How the pandemic progresses and how much time does it take for us to sort of reach a stable position really depends on a lot of factors, and it's quite different from between India and France, because here we have a completely different setup, and it's an absolutely different story. You cannot compare the two. While in France, even with the smaller population, they take drastic measures because they don't want to risk the spread of the infection too much. So the situation really continues to evolve, and it changes every few weeks. But for next year's intake, if you're looking to apply, for now, everything's planned as scheduled, and there is no as such change in schedule or the calendar. So if you want to go ahead with your application, there is no restriction as such. the apprehension is always there, I can understand, but there is no restriction as such.
There is, I believe,
There is one message that I've received. I think that person has sent it personally. It's about the scholarship. If a person is not able to receive scholarship in a public university, what's the tuition fee of private university, and if there are scholarships available for private universities? So yes, there are scholarships for both institutions, private institutions as well as public universities. The tuition fee for private institutions are different for each institution. So you will have to check with each respective institution for your particular program, what is their fee structure. And for scholarships, as Rajat mentioned earlier, it's better you start early because many of the scholarship period, it begins in the month of February itself. So if you receive your acceptance letter from either public university or private institution by October or November, or let's say December, then the Charpak scholarship, if I take example of Charpak scholarship, the application period is from February to April. So you do get ample of time to apply for the scholarship, and that is for a private institution. And once you begin your program in the month of September, by that time you would have received your results for scholarship. So indeed, you can apply for scholarships for both public universities as well as private institutions. And there are various scholarships. So separately, you can apply for each scholarship. Just one thing that under French government, you can have just one scholarship. You can apply to as many as possible, but you cannot have all the scholarships. There are examples of Eiffel Scholarship, Charpak Scholarship. You can only receive one at the end of the day. And the fee for each institution is different. So whichever program you wish to pursue, you have to check with each private institution. And talking about public universities, at master's level, the maximum fee is 300 to 400 euros. And just because there was a change in law a year back, just a few universities have increased the fee up to 3,770 euros. That's round figure is 4,000 euros, but that's just for one or two universities. Rest, for all public universities, the maximum fee for a year is approx 400 euros for a year. Yeah. Any other questions?
I've shared information about the Choose France tour and the link of the Choose France tour. So if anyone wants to register, that's an easier way to find out which universities are coming. And if you'd like to have appointments with them, you can book them online directly. It's absolutely free.
There's another question about
Where? Yes, it is a good choice. It is a safe choice, but make sure you do all your verification well in advance before leaving from India. It is a safe choice, but you do not have blind trust. Do your verifications, and yes, you can go for it. I mean, usually when you choose a family in France, they offer you to study French language or some of the programs in France, which you can do simultaneously while working as, while being there as a au pair. So it is safe, but again, do your verifications. Sure. Okay, there's another question. Je voudrais savoir s'il y a un waiver pour visiter France pour... Okay, no. Even if you are an Alliance Française student, there is no waiver as such. Yes, if you receive a scholarship, which is a separate case and open for all, of course, you will get your fee waivers and all the benefits. But just because you're a student at Alliance Française, you will not get a fee waiver. However, learning French will always be beneficial. And, one interesting benefit, which I can think from a student's perspective is each student thinks of, and also even for your programs, you do have internships as a mandatory part of your program. And if you do know French language, well in advance, it'll be easier for you to look for an internship. And again, thinking long term, you can always convert that internship to a job. And knowing French language is an advantage. So if you finish your program, you know the skills, you have those skills of that particular program, you know French language, so automatically you become an asset to your employer. Think of it this way. So if you really want to stay in France and work and, think of yourself, in that country, in longer run, you should learn French. That's suggested. It has a lot of benefits. Is Sorbonne a public university? Yes. I mean, you will have to apply via candidature procedure. Again, for public universities, the application period will begin in the month of November this year. So the application period is from November to March of any year, and that is for September intake. So September 2021 intake, all you students can apply from November 2020 to March 2021. You can apply to 7 different programs with one application, and I did read somewhere, if knowledge of French language is required. So if you're applying for any English taught program, French knowledge is required only for the purpose of being able to communicate there in that country. Otherwise, it's not mandatory to know French language. However, if you plan to study a French taught program, you should have at least B2 level of French knowledge. That's mandatory. That is the basic eligibility criteria. You should have Delph B2. Then only you can pursue a French taught program. And if you wish to pursue masters in French literature, or you want to go for FLO or something in French itself, in the field of French language itself, then having a DALS C1 is mandatory. So in case any of you is planning to get into this field, make sure you take up your Delph examinations this December, or if you're planning for let's say next year or next to next year, please plan accordingly. Take up your Delph examinations in advance. All right, I don't see any more questions. If there are any more questions, you can ask. Otherwise, it was good. Yeah. Are there any more questions, Ravati? Do you have any questions?
I don't know. I don't have any more questions. Ma'am, any questions on your side?
No, I don't think so. I think we have almost covered all the questions. And I think it's time to say thank you to all of you. And I think Rachit has already shared the, yeah, somebody has got a quick question, Vanisha. Yes, put your question, please. A2 from France. Okay. If done A1 from Delhi, she's asking if she's done A1 from Delhi, can she do a A2 from France? I think she, but why would
it is suggested that you complete A1 and A2 in India itself. I mean, there are reasons why Alliance Française is present all across India, and there are so many centers of Alliance Française. So that's one criteria, that if Alliance Française is present in your home country, you have completed at least A2 level in your home country itself. And you can pursue further levels in France, that is starting from B1. So take out some more time, complete your A2 also here only, and then you can go for your B1 level studies in France. And it's the usual fee, as you can, target your Alliance Française in France, wherever you wish to go, and you can check the fee. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think I would suggest all the students who are interested to go for the event that Rachit has just put up, because it will be more informative, and you could perhaps have a one-to-one conversation with the people who are there. So please register, and it's free, of course. So there should be no hassle, and it's a weekend, if I'm not wrong. So have that. And once again, thanks a lot, Rachit, and thanks a lot, Shubhra. To Vanjika has one more question. Okay, you'll keep us here, I know. So yeah, yeah, shoot your question now. Yeah, Vanshika, waiting for your question.
Okay.
Yeah, but the English assistant program, you, I think, need more. Yeah, I think I'll let Shubhra answer that. Yeah.
You can plan for it. You will have to apply this year itself if you wish to go next year. Okay, you're in BCom second year. You need to have Delph B1. That's a mandatory certification that you need to have. You should have IELTS Academics 7.5. That's again mandatory. And you should be a student currently. And if you wish to go next year, then you need to apply this year before December 2. So plan accordingly. Because if you're in your second year, you won't be completing your third year by next year, September. So you cannot go. Next year, you should be applying for Assistant d'Anglais program. Next year, between October 15 to December 2. And before that, make sure you have your Delph B1, you have IELTS Academics with 7.5 band. These are two mandatory criterias. Yes, you can apply next year.
So you need to complete your B1 and you need to complete your IELTS. So these are two important tests you have to get your score for.
Yes.
And be in the final year of your bachelor.
Yeah.
You need to be a student somewhere. That's also mandatory too. Someone has asked me this question, if studies are more expensive than the usual fee. No, if you attend a program which is English taught, and whatever will be the fee for any program at that university, it will be the same for you. You will not be charged anything extra. That's it. I've answered all the questions now.
Hopefully. Thanks a lot, Rachit and Shubhra, for coming in for our students and answering the questions so patiently. We loved this interaction, and I hope students benefited from this. And I hope, okay, good, great. Manchika, all the best, and do get in touch with Rachita, Shubhra in case you need any help. Should we call it a day now, Navriti?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And thanks a lot to our main speaker, academic director, if he's around. Thanks a lot. We are indeed grateful to you for being here with us and patiently answering our students' queries. Thank you all for this lovely evening.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Guillaume. Merci beaucoup, Shubhra, Rachit, Professor Gopa. Merci. Thank you so much. Et tous les étudiants de participer et de poser beaucoup de questions and asking so many questions, and that too in French. Thank you so much for your time, all of you. Thank you.
And Navriti, your excitement and your enterprising spirit in organizing this and bringing all of us together is really, really commendable.
Thank you, ma'am. It goes all to you for giving us this opportunity to organize. It all goes to you for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our speakers. Thank you, Mr. Guillaume, Shubhra, and Rachit. Thank you. And to all the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Bon week-end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Un plaisir.
Okay. Over.
Over.
Au revoir.